Every time you speak about your next move, your energy leaks. Every detail you share becomes fuel for someone else's doubt, envy, or sabotage. Power fades when it's exposed too early. Master the art of silence because when you keep your life private, your progress multiplies. Speak less, move more. Let your results whisper what your words used to scream. Protect your peace by guarding your story. That's where your strength begins. In a few moments, I will teach you how to protect your peace by keeping your plans and progress private. The more you share, the less you build. You may think that speaking your plans out loud gives them power, that by telling others you anchor yourself to action. But has it truly worked? Or have you noticed that the more you talk about what you're going to do, the less you actually do? There's a silent strength in holding your ambition close. When you speak too soon, you invite opinions, resistance, and the temptation to feel satisfied by mere intention. Words become a substitute for action. Approval becomes a trap. And suddenly, you're performing your life instead of building it. A seed does not speak as it pushes through the soil. It grows in silence, and the world sees the result when it breaks the surface. You are no different. Your goals don't require applause. They require grit, consistency, and privacy. So hold your vision in quiet confidence. Protect it like a fire in the wind. Let people see the results, not the rehearsal. Ask yourself, do you want recognition for planning or victory from execution? Imagine you're sculpting a masterpiece, every stroke, every curve done alone in the quiet. Now imagine stopping every 5 minutes to show someone your progress. You'd lose the rhythm, the magic, the momentum. That's what you do when you speak too much too soon. Guard your plans, build in silence, let the world witness your results. Then they'll know what you were working on all along. Every time you explain, you invite doubt. You may believe that sharing your plans earns you support, but what often follows is not encouragement. It's skepticism, warnings, and doubt disguised. People do not doubt you because they know your path. They doubt you because they can't see your vision. And every time you explain yourself, you dilute your own belief. You begin to question your direction. You start rearranging your dream to make it palatable. The more you tailor your vision to others, the less it fits your soul. You don't need permission to chase what's burning inside you. You need resolve. And resolve grows in solitude, not under the weight of constant justification. You aren't weak for wanting approval. It's natural, but it's dangerous because it's addictive. And soon you'll confuse nods for progress and likes for milestones. So the next time someone asks what you're building, smile, nod, and say, "You'll see soon." Ask yourself this: if no one approved, would you still pursue it? Imagine a man building a boat in his backyard. People pass by, they laugh. They don't see water nearby, so they assume he's wasting time. But one day he wheels it to the river, sails into the horizon, and everyone watches, silent and stunned. That could be you if you keep rowing in silence. You owe no explanations, only execution. Silence builds pressure, and pressure builds power. There is power in tension, not the kind that explodes, but the kind that builds. Like steam inside a sealed engine, like a bow drawn before release. When you keep your vision to yourself, it builds pressure. Discipline forms. The desire to act increases. And when you finally move, you do it with force, unapologetic, focused, and fierce. But speak too soon, and the pressure leaks. You feel like you've already achieved something just by saying it. You trick your mind into thinking talking is doing, and you rob yourself of that full force momentum. The great achievers of history understood this. They didn't need to announce their plans. They worked, then arrived. Their silence was not secrecy, it was strategy. Are you building pressure, or are you letting it escape through your mouth? Imagine a spring tightly wound, held back, not because it's afraid, but because it's preparing. That's your energy when you stay quiet, coiled, ready, precise. Let the silence work in your favor. Let it be the tension before your triumph. You must learn to withstand the unknown one. Of the hardest lessons in life is this: not everything you start will be understood, especially in the beginning. When you share your early steps, you invite early judgment, and judgment often kills momentum. If your vision is young, it is fragile. Just like a plant in its first days of life, It needs warmth, water, and above all, protection. You must learn to build without being seen, to walk without needing witnesses, to act without applause. You're not hiding, you're fortifying. People will ask, "What are you doing? Where are you going? Why are you changing?" And it will tempt you to answer. But understand, your progress is not a performance, it's a process. When you can move forward without needing the world's nod, you've crossed into mastery. Imagine you're baking bread from scratch. The dough rises in darkness. It takes time. Opening the oven too soon ruins it. Your life is no different. Let it rise, undisturbed. You don't owe updates, you owe results. Let your silence be a mirror. The quieter you become, the louder the world begins to notice. Not with applause, but with discomfort. Not because you're begging for attention, but because your stillness makes others face the chaos they've been avoiding. Your silence, calm, focused, disciplined, isn't passive. It's powerful. It stirs something in others, not always admiration, often unease. Because when someone sees a person grounded, undistracted, walking forward without explanation or announcement, it forces a question they'd rather not face. What am I doing with my time? This is the tension your quiet presence creates. You don't even have to speak for it to echo. You show up, do your work, stay on your path, and without meaning to, you shine a light on everything they're not doing, so they react, not to you, but to the reflection they can't ignore. Your discipline becomes a spotlight. Your restraint becomes a contrast. And for many, it's easier to question you than confront themselves. They'll prod, they'll gossip, they'll joke, anything to make you break your silence and explain yourself. Because if you speak, maybe they'll feel justified in their noise. But if you stay silent, if you keep building in peace, then their excuses collapse under the weight of your consistency. Understand this deeply. People are rarely reacting to your truth. They're reacting to the way your truth threatens the lie they're living. So stop wondering why they doubt you. It's not your responsibility to fix their discomfort. You're not their mirror. You're your own mission. Your silence is not a void. It is structure, intention, and discipline forged over time. And it is not your job to narrate your effort for those unwilling to walk their own path. Let them wonder. Let them speculate. Let them talk. None of it matters. Because you are not here to be understood. You are here to build. Visualize yourself climbing a cold, brutal mountain. No crowd, no cameras, just you, the wind, and the next step. It's hard, it's lonely, but it's real. And when you finally reach the peak, exhausted but triumphant, what the world sees is only the silhouette. They didn't see the struggle. They didn't feel the chill. But the peak belongs to you, not because of what you said, but because of what you endured. This is the power of quiet. It doesn't ask to be seen. It demands to be respected. The ones who build in silence leave behind monuments that need no explanation. You don't have to raise your voice to make an impact. When your life is proof, silence becomes a legacy. So stay the course. Keep your focus. Let your silence speak, and let it speak loudly. Every voice you hear competes with your own. There was a time when your thoughts felt like still water, pure, undisturbed, and unmistakably your own. Your goals lived quietly within you, untouched by judgment, unswayed by fear. But the moment you gave them voice, something began to change. You thought sharing would empower you, that it would attract support, encouragement, maybe even admiration. Instead, what came was noise, a flood of opinions, warnings, second guesses, and casual dismissals cloaked in concern. And gradually that inner flame, the voice that once lit up your path, grew dim under the weight of what others thought. You may not have noticed it at first. A friend's offhand comment, a mentor's caution, a parent's fear. You took it all in, believing you were being wise, open-minded, receptive. But what you didn't realize is that with every piece of advice that didn't match your soul, a little dust settled on your vision. And now you hesitate, not because you don't believe, but because their fears are echoing louder than your conviction. You must reclaim that voice. That is the essence of true growth. It's not loud, it's not broadcasted, it's not glamorous, but it is real. Most people want to be celebrated before they've done anything worth celebrating. They chase recognition before results. They want praise for potential, applause for ideas, and admiration for declarations. But potential is not power. It's the suggestion of power, not the reality of it. You don't change your life by being impressive in conversation. You change it by being relentless in execution. So when you're tempted to announce your next step, your goal, your comeback, your big plan, pause, sit with it, build in silence. Don't rob your future by seeking validation too early. Prove it with your results, not with your promises. Because every time you speak instead of act, you dilute the energy that should be used to create. Don't mistake motion for progress. Don't confuse planning with building. And don't ever believe that being seen is more important than being ready. Respect is not given to those who speak well, it's given to those who live well. If you want to be respected, become someone whose results speak louder than any announcement you could make. Make your life your proof. Let others discover your strength, not because you pointed it out, but because they saw it. Unavoidable, undeniable in everything you do. Imagine two men. Both claim they're committed to transformation. One talks daily about his plan, what he'll do, why he'll do it, how it's going to change his life. His words are filled with certainty, but his actions, sporadic, conditional. He waits for motivation, applause, or the perfect moment. The other man says nothing. He just shows up quietly every morning while others sleep, while others scroll. He trains, he reads, he works. No announcement, no performance, just steady, deliberate movement. Weeks pass, then months. The first man has stories, the second has strength. Which one are you? In the end, the answer doesn't lie in what you say, it lies in what you repeat, quietly, daily, unshakably. That's where transformation lives. So talk less, move more. Make silence your partner and discipline your guide, because when the world finally sees what you've become, it won't be because you told them, it'll be because you gave them no choice but to notice. Confidence that needs approval is not confidence. You say you believe in yourself. But the moment a new idea sparks, a new plan forms, the first thing you do is speak it aloud, hoping someone nods, hoping someone smiles, hoping they say, yes, you can. You don't realize it, but in those moments, you're not affirming your belief, you're borrowing it. You're reaching outward, looking for permission, for agreement, for applause. And yet, true confidence roots. It stands alone, quietly, firmly, without needing to be echoed. There is a subtle trap hidden in constant sharing. You think you're being open, transparent, accountable, but more often, you're asking the world to vote on your worth. You're holding your vision out like a paper in the wind, whispering, this is what I plan to do. What do you think? And if they hesitate, you hesitate. If they question, you flinch. Their doubt becomes your doubt. Their pause becomes your paralysis. This is not belief, it's bargaining. You're negotiating your destiny, piece by piece, with people who were never meant to be part of the contract. And here's the harsh truth. Confidence that depends on applause isn't confidence. It's dependency, dressed in the language of dreams. It's fragile. It breaks easily, because every cheer can turn into a chuckle. Every "you've got this" can become "I told you so." When you constantly tie your courage to other people's voices, your strength becomes a puppet dancing or slumping, depending on whether the crowd claps. So what do you do instead? You build quietly. You protect your fire. You don't owe the world the early chapters. You don't have to explain the plot before the story is finished. Let them wonder. Let them guess. Let them stay distracted while you work in silence. Because when the foundation is deep enough, when the roots have gripped something unshakable, then and only then will the world see what you've known all along. Picture this. You're building a fire in the dark. It's cold, it's quiet, the wood is damp, the wind unkind, but you kneel down, shield the spark, and nurse it slowly. It catches, grows, begins to glow. Now imagine if every time it flickered, you turned outward and said, look, do you see it? Isn't it amazing? All that breath, all that reaching for attention, only ends up stealing the oxygen your fire needs to burn. And in time, what might have roared dies quietly. That's what happens when you speak too soon, when your energy goes into being seen rather than becoming. The flame of belief is delicate at first. It needs stillness, protection, repetition, not exposure. Let it grow in private. Let it build heat, layer by layer, until it no longer flickers, it radiates, until the light and warmth are so strong that the world can't help but feel it. When that moment comes, you won't need to announce yourself. The results will speak. The transformation will be too clear to ignore. And those same people who once needed convincing will ask how you did it, but by then it won't matter, because you won't need their permission. You never did. So keep your belief to yourself, not out of fear, but out of respect. Respect for your vision, respect for your discipline, respect for the process that builds legends, not headlines. You are not here to entertain with empty talk. You are here to prove quietly. Let your work whisper first. Let your results roar later. Let the world feel your heat when it's ready, not when you're uncertain. That's the difference between hoping and knowing, between waiting and becoming. And that is the kind of belief that cannot be broken. Privacy is a discipline, not a weakness. Most people misunderstand silence. They think that if you're quiet, you must be unsure, lost, uncertain, maybe even weak, as if every strong man must shout, as if every confident woman must explain. But silence is not the absence of knowing. It is often the evidence of mastery. It is the discipline to hold your vision close when the world demands a preview. It is the choice to build, not broadcast. Silence is not weakness. Silence is wisdom. It is the mark of someone who does not need noise to feel valuable. It's easy to speak about dreams. It's easy to announce your plans and chase applause. But to sit with your ambition, to let it grow, shape, and mold you in the quiet, requires a kind of strength that few possess. Most want their effort seen before it's complete. They want validation as they move, not after. But the strongest transformation always begins in privacy, not performance. Privacy is not about secrecy, it's about clarity. When you keep your process sacred, you give yourself room to think without echo. You remove the external noise that clouds your internal compass. You make space to fail without shame, to adjust without pressure, and to grow without distraction. That silence, that solitude, becomes a forge where your rough ideas are heated, hammered, sharpened, until they are no longer ideas, but instruments of execution. Ask yourself this, honestly. Are you seeking growth, or are you chasing attention? There's a difference. Growth is quiet. It's ugly. It's filled with missteps, late nights, and uncomfortable reflection. Attention is loud. It's polished and posed and shared for approval. If you're addicted to attention, you'll rush the process. You'll try to look finished before you've done the real work, and in doing so, you'll trade depth for decoration. Imagine a blacksmith learning to forge a sword. In public, every slip of the hand is magnified. Every uneven edge is mocked. The crowd watches not to support, but to critique. The pressure makes it hard to breathe, let alone focus. But in private, in a quiet forge, free from the glare of others, the blacksmith can fail without fear. He can try again and again. He can burn his hands, dull the blade, break it in two, and learn. Until one day he holds something not just sharp, but true. A blade that gleams because it was crafted with patience, not performance. This is the forge you must choose, not the one with an audience, but the one with freedom, because freedom is found in silence, in keeping your vision to yourself until it's strong enough to survive judgment. You don't owe the world your process. You don't have to prove you're trying. The results will tell that story for you when the time is right. Let your silence be your sanctuary, not your prison. Let it be the place where your focus sharpens, where your ambition matures. Don't let the world rush you into proving something you're still learning. Protect your vision like a flame in the wind. Shield it, feed it, give it time, because one day that small, quiet flame will become a fire no one can ignore. There is power in the man who walks forward without explaining. There is power in the woman who keeps her plans close until they're complete. That power isn't loud, but it lasts. It builds quietly until it becomes undeniable. So next time someone mistakes your silence for fear, smile. Let them think what they will. You are not hiding, you are refining. And when you're ready, you won't have to say a word, because your life will say it all. Not everyone deserves a front row seat. You've been generous, maybe too generous. You've opened the doors to your soul, laid your plans out like blueprints, bared your struggles like open wounds. You've spoken of your hopes with full-hearted sincerity, trusting that others would treat them with care. And some did, but not all, because not everyone who listens is there to support. Some sit in silence, nodding while secretly hoping you fail. Not out of hatred, but because your progress makes them uncomfortable. Your movement highlights their stagnation. Your courage exposes their excuses. There are people who collect your words like weapons, waiting to use them when you're most vulnerable. People who pretend to cheer but are quick to whisper doubts behind your back. People who simply cannot comprehend what you're building because they've never tried to build anything themselves. And yet, you've let them in, into the inner chamber of your life, the sacred space where visions take form, where identity is sculpted. You've allowed them to linger in that space with muddy feet and noisy opinions, hoping that your openness would be met with understanding. But here is a hard truth. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world, not because they're evil, but because they're unqualified. They haven't earned the right to hold your plans, let alone judge them. And every time you explain yourself to someone who doesn't have the eyes to see or the heart to care, you lose a little power. You dilute the sacred energy that should be fueling your action, not defending your intent. The more you speak, the more you scatter that energy. You begin to rewrite your ideas based on reactions. You start to question your direction because someone frowned. You let the wrong people enter the theater of your mind and critique a play that's still being written. Their voices become background noise that blurs your vision. Their doubts become internal whispers that make you hesitate. You must learn to be selective, not out of fear, but out of deep respect for what you're becoming. Silence is not secrecy, it is strategy. Privacy is not withdrawal, it is wisdom. When you hold your mission close, you protect its roots. You give yourself the space to nurture it, refine it, strengthen it before it is tested by the outside world. Imagine you're planting a rare seed, something ancient and powerful, something that takes years to bloom. Would you let just anyone walk through that garden? Would you let strangers handle the soil, step on the shoots, laugh when the progress seems slow? Of course not. You would fence it in. You would water it quietly. You would watch over it with care. And you would wait patiently, protectively, until the day it breaks through the earth with undeniable strength. Your dreams are that seed. They need protection. They need solitude. They don't need validation before they grow. They need commitment. And your job is not to convince the world that what you're doing is worthy. Your job is to do it, to stay rooted in your process and let the results be the loudest thing you ever say. This doesn't mean you isolate. It means you curate. You choose your audience with the same discernment an artist uses to reveal their masterpiece. You don't hang sketches in the street. You wait until the painting is complete. Then, and only then, do you show it to those who will appreciate its depth. Not everyone will, and that's fine, because your life is not a public show, it is a sacred journey. Every time you keep something for yourself, you are not withholding. You are protecting. You are honoring the silence in which transformation thrives. You are giving yourself the gift of undisturbed growth. You are saying to the world, I am not here for applause, I am here to become. So speak less, not because you are hiding, but because you are focused. Build in silence. Water your roots. Let the soil of your discipline grow deep before anyone sees the bloom. And when the time comes, when your tree stands tall, full of fruit, unshakable, then let them see, not to prove, but simply because the work now speaks for itself. Choose your audience wisely. Not everyone is meant to walk with you. Not everyone is equipped to hear your truth and still protect your peace. Keep your inner world sacred. Let it be yours. Let it be strong. Let it be ready before you open the gates. Because your life was never meant to be a stage. It was always meant to be a sanctuary. The more you speak, you don't lose momentum in one loud crash. You lose it in whispers, in casual conversations, in innocent disclosures, in small, unguarded moments when you speak of your ambition instead of acting on it. It doesn't feel like much at first. You tell a friend about your plan. You explain your goal to a colleague. You share a future vision in the spirit of excitement. But with each word, something subtle shifts. A little confidence slips out. A bit of urgency dissolves. And without realizing it, you've begun to let your energy leak, one drop at a time. You think the danger lies in failure, in resistance, in the difficulty of the climb. But more often it lies in leakage. Momentum rarely disappears in a single blow, it erodes. And the erosion often begins the moment you speak too much, too soon. What was once a burning engine of intent slowly becomes steam, released before it could push the wheels forward. Words, when used carelessly, become escape hatches. They let out the pressure you should have kept inside. They give you an illusion of progress, a feeling of motion, a premature reward. You talk about your routine, your vision, your strategy, and it feels good. It gives you a rush, as if you've done something, but you haven't. The wheels haven't moved. The stone hasn't lifted. All you've done is narrate the idea of movement while standing still, and that narration becomes a trap, because every time you explain yourself, you gain satisfaction without substance, and satisfaction is the enemy of action. It convinces you that your dream is already halfway done, just because others nodded while you described it. The applause, the approval, even the mild encouragement, they all become surrogates for progress. Slowly the fire cools, you lose the edge, and one day you wake up wondering where your hunger went. There's a hidden power in silence, not secrecy born of fear, but privacy born of strength. When you hold your vision tightly, when you let it live inside you without scattering it through conversations, you protect it. You preserve its shape, its force, its urgency. You give it a chance to mature in the dark, to harden into resolve before it's exposed to the weather of other people's doubt, or worse, their applause. Applause can be just as dangerous as criticism, because it feeds your ego before your work has earned it. It tricks you into thinking the stone has moved when it hasn't even been touched. And the longer you stand there talking about your strengths, your plan, your certainty, the less likely you are to actually act on it. Ask yourself, are you building your dream or narrating it? Are you sculpting your future with the tools of discipline and movement, or painting imaginary outcomes with words? Imagine a man standing before a massive stone. He wants to lift it, move it, carry it across a field to prove his strength, to test his limits. But instead of lifting, he describes it. It's heavy, he says. I'll need to brace my legs this way. I'll grip it from the bottom. I'll breathe out as I push. He tells everyone, over and over. He's certain about the plan. He's proud of it. Days pass. He's still talking. The stone hasn't moved an inch. That's what you risk every time you speak instead of act. That's what happens when you trade doing for describing. The truth is, your future doesn't need a narrator. It needs a builder, a doer, a mover, a quiet force that doesn't spend its time convincing others, but compounding its effort. You don't need to explain where you're going. You need to go. Every word you spend explaining is a step you didn't take. Every conversation is energy you could have invested in motion. You don't need external agreement to validate internal drive. Your purpose is not up for public debate. There's a reason some of the most effective people are the quietest. They're not distracted. They're not leaking energy. They're focused. Their vision is whole because it's undisturbed by opinion, untainted by preemptive applause. Their fire burns because they haven't let the steam escape. They're not waiting to be seen. They're working to arrive. You have to become like that, ruthless with your energy, protective of your direction, selective with your words. Don't describe the stone, lift it. Don't perform the idea of progress, move. Even a single step is louder than 1,000 promises. Even one day of real effort is more powerful than a year of flawless plans. Let your silence build pressure. Let your stillness sharpen your edge. When you move, let it be so clean, so decisive, that no explanation is needed. Let the results be your language. Let the world find out when it's already too late to doubt you. Don't leak. Don't speak. Just move. Because movement, not noise, is what makes your dream real. Protect what hasn't matured. Your goals are like fruit on a tree. They need time. Time to form, to mature, to ripen into something nourishing. You can't force the process. You can't rush it, and you certainly can't parade it before it's ready. Pick fruit too early, and what could have been sweet becomes sour. Expose it to the wrong elements too soon, and it withers. Not because it lacked promise, but because it lacked protection. The same is true of your dreams, your ambitions, your quiet visions that flicker in the early light of your becoming. They are not yet strong,